Kara, this is Kirsten. I'm up and running.
Okay, great, thanks.
Sorry, I go through this every single time I start a meeting with you.
Okay.
Jesse. Kara, am I able to start the meeting now?
Yes, you should be good to go.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to call Administration and Finance to order. Present, we have, I'll just do a quick roll call here. We have Anderson is not present, Becerra not present, Contos is present. Ms. Harp is not present. Hess and Jones are present. Merritt is absent. Ramos, Cheryl, and Vasica are present, and Von Lossberg and West are not present. Let me double check in case anyone joined. Okay, so that's what we have right now. That is 6 people. That is not yet a quorum, but I hope we have at least one more person joining because we do have a fair amount of things to do today in A&F and need a quorum. Well, it would be far more helpful to have a quorum. So please join. If you are watching this meeting and want to public comment, we have the information on the screen right now. You need to call in, and the phone numbers for landline, I'll just read this off, are 1-888-475-4499. Webinar ID is 828-4077-0884. If you call in, and there are other numbers listed on our agenda, I'll just read that one off. If you call in, you need to press *9 to raise your hand. You can also join by computer. The link is on our agenda. We do have several other ways to provide public comment, and we always encourage that. Okay, and I will add that we now have Ms. West, Ms. Anderson, and Ms. Harp are present, so we have a quorum. Very good, thank you. Okay, we've done roll call. We have minutes from September 16th, 2020 to approve. Were there any changes to those minutes? Seeing no hands raised, those will stand approved. And we will go to public comment on items not on the agenda. Let me see if we have anyone attending for that. I see someone in the waiting room, but your hand is not raised. If you want to raise your hand, please press *9. And I'll call on you. Otherwise, I assume you just want to observe. And I will continue to check the list for comment. Okay, I'm not seeing a raised hand, so we will go forward. We've got 3 items today. The first item is for budget amendments, and we have Lee Griffin to present on that. And I'll just preface this by saying, for people who are newly elected to council as of last January, we did the budget this summer. Throughout the year, every quarter, we do budget amendments as numbers change a little bit here and there, or if something was inadvertently not included, or if grant money comes in, all sorts of different reasons for budget amendments. Basically, it's keeping our budget up to date as real-time changes happen throughout the year. So that's my preface. Lee Griffin will give us a lot more information, and take it away, Lee.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen with a presentation on these budget amendments. What I'm bringing for you today is the first quarter budget amendments for the FY21 budget. Now, state law allows us to amend the budget throughout the year as long as we conduct public hearings and have the appropriate notice in newspapers. So those have to be published twice within at least 6 days separating each publication. So sometimes it seems like budget amendments can actually kind of take a long period of time in between having to make the referral, have a committee meeting, have these notices, and then set public hearings. So sometimes it seems like I'm bringing the same thing over and over again, but that's just part of the process. Today, along with this presentation, I'm going to be asking City Council to set the public hearing for Monday, November 2nd and November 9th for these budget amendments. And we've been doing these back-to-back public hearings when it's available, since we've been doing these remote meetings, to allow for more folks to have public comment and to see the agenda items. Now, on August 31st of this year, City Council passed Resolution 8451. This is a resolution fixing the annual appropriations, and that's sort of a do not exceed level, and that's important for some of these amendments that I'm bringing in today. Here we have a list of our budget amendments, and you'll notice that some of these were actually approved during the budget process. And then just in the mad last minutes, some of these dollar amounts were not actually added to that final appropriations not to exceed level. So we're bringing them back today to ensure that the departments have the appropriate appropriations amounts within their budget. We have some of the departments here today in case council has questions, and we can also bring various staff members to the meetings at the public hearings. So I believe our first 5 or 6 items were items that had been approved but not captured in that amount. And then we have quite a few items that are bringing in new revenue. We have one column here that says revenue account and description, because we always want folks to know where the funding source is coming from. You'll see fund balance, existing revenues, and so forth. But when you see a dollar amount, that means that we're actually bringing in new revenues that were not previously in the budget. An example is this CARES out of school time grant. So we have quite a few there from parks bringing in additional revenue. And we're going to be asking City Council at the end of those public hearings to approve a resolution that increases both revenues and expenditures for the FY21 budget, revenues in the amount of $1.1 million and expenditures in the amount of $1.4 million. And the difference there goes to using fund balance as a source, and that was discussed during the FY21 budget discussions as some of those items up above that didn't get captured. At this time, we also bring forward carry forward and transfer items as an informational point so that City Council knows any sort of changes that actually happen in the budget from the day that it was approved. And then these are some of the changes that happened through the years or throughout the year. Carry forwards are items that were approved in a prior budget, but the contract was not completed, the work wasn't completed, what have you. And we have quite a few in here from Housing and Community development, and these are grant funds that they've already received, and now they just need to finish up the work. Budget transfers doesn't change, increase or decrease budgeted amounts, but what it does is it moves them from one code to another. So if you were to look at one department or code and notice that the numbers were different, it might be due to budget transfers. So back to the timeline, we referred this item on October 1st. Now it's October 14th. And then next Monday, as council would set the public hearings for November 2nd and November 9th. And then on November 9th would approve the resolution amending the budget. Today, the motion is to set the public hearing for those dates. Please let me know if anybody has any questions.
Thank you so much, Lee, and thanks for a really clear presentation there. Are there any questions on these budget amendments? There was a very clear 2-page list in there, and as Lee said, all sorts of different reasons why we do budget amendments. Any questions? Ms. Harp.
Thanks. I'm just kind of curiously why what was uploaded inside of I think the budget amendment exhibit A, why there are several pages referring to the fire department's dispatch, mobile crisis team, jail data. Why is that in that particular exhibit?
I believe those might be the line items for the mental health professional that was discussed. It was their new request number 8. It was approved at the very end of the budget there. And it's part of that, I believe it's $248 total.
Yeah, it just didn't seem like it was the appropriate. It looks like it's a data collecting tool that the fire department will be using for the mobile crisis unit, but I couldn't make heads or tails of why that would be in the budget amendment.
Because this was an item that was, we were trying to, at the last minute, I must admit, attach the new requests. And we may have just grabbed the wrong one, and we can get that updated.
Okay. I mean, it's important information, but not necessarily for this purpose.
Are there any other questions regarding these items? I am not seeing any. I'm looking for a motion, and we basically are setting the public hearing, which will start on November 2nd. Ms. Anderson.
I will make the recommended motion to set the public hearing.
Wonderful, thank you. Is there, whoops, hang on a second. Any public comment on that motion? If you want to make public comment, please press *9 to raise your hand so that I know that you want to make public comment. Not seeing any public comment. Are there any other questions from council? Lee, I did want to point out, I thought it was really clear where you put fund balance and grant or transfer in or transfer out in that column. It just helps because that's usually a typical question with these types of things, but it was very clear. And I can just clarify for Missoula Aging Services, we have always had a static amount that we have, city has given to Missoula Aging Services to provide services in Missoula. And last year we changed that formula a little bit so that it is now tied to 1.8 mils, I believe, and that way they could be tracking with inflation and having basically a gradual increase as mills go up. So that is now included in this. We did it actually a year ago last summer in that budget for FY 2020 and skipped a beat, didn't quite have that small amount of 16,000 included, so that's why it's in here. Okay, well, we've called for public comment. We have no other questions. Can we do a roll call vote, please?
Anderson,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Vasika,
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Did anybody else join the meeting?
We
Looks
missed
like we've
anyone?
got 9 yeses and 3 absent.
Thank you. That will go, well, that will, I guess, go on the consent agenda to set for our November 2nd public hearing. So thank you very much. Thanks, Lee. Thanks for all your work on this. The next item that we have on our agenda is 3.2, contract for prosecutor by carpal approval. Jim Nugent, are you here to present on this? This is for a memorandum of understanding between the City of Missoula and Carpal Solutions. Mr.
Yes,
Nugent.
I will introduce this, and then Colleen Roseboom will give you the substance of her efforts to try and identify a replacement. As the 3-page memo indicates, the case management software we've had for the prosecutions, the Justware was going to sunset their sales and services effective next year on June 30th. There are a couple of legal principles that are involved in the proposal that we're putting before you. One is a sole source contract, because some of the features that Colleen was able to find were unique to this system that we are asking you to approve. And then also there's the cooperative purchasing, which we would be joining in a cooperative purchasing effort with other counties and cities that would then give us a discount for the pricing on the program, the case management program that we would be obtaining. With respect to the sole source, Colleen can explain the efforts she made with respect to trying to find a replacement and the reasons why she was not able to find anyone else who was going to provide the services that are needed by our office. So I will ask Colleen to now provide explanation and the substance basically of the 3-page memo we sent you.
Good afternoon. So in moving forward with this contract, I had done some comparisons with other vendors as well as other members of the county attorneys throughout the state had done as well. After we returned to work from COVID, we were contacted by the Montana County Attorneys Association, which had started this discussion with Carpel, which is who we've chosen for this sole source. A couple of things that came up during my review of other programs and vendors was an issue with being able to customize the database. As you know, prosecution, we have a lot of the same things that we need, but at the same time, we need to be able to do part of our program specific to what we have as far as our state laws, our court, our police department, and that type of thing. One of the vendors I reviewed was not customizable. It was one source, and that was all that was there. Another great feature that we're pretty excited about with this program is statewide data sharing. You can see here, I've shared my screen. This is a statewide project that Carpel is working on. They've got quite a few signed contracts, and they're working with multiple other counties and cities. Just learned that Billings is going on board. They're going to their council next week. Bozeman is looking at it, Helena. Once we are all on this new program, we will be able to share data throughout the state. So if we look up a defendant here in Missoula, there'll be a tab within the program that will highlight with state, we can open it up and we can see that in Billings, Montana, this particular defendant is out on warrant for a partner family member assault. Currently, we call around the state a lot of times if we have an idea that maybe somebody still has something pending, a DUI in another jurisdiction. And so this will be a great feature that'll speed up our ability to learn about defendants throughout. It's pretty exciting as well. They're going to keep our statutes up to date. They're also forming a committee that will do standard language for charging and all. The experience with this company is 20 plus years, whereas we looked at another program that is trying to jump into this area, but they've only worked with private law enforcement. Because we're a completely paperless system, other than the records, certified records that have to go into the court record, it's imperative that this project moves forward with experience and a company with that experience so that we can continue to keep going. If we don't have our program running, we can't even go to court. We don't have paper files. They also gave us a no-cost JustWare data conversion. JustWare is 400 plus agencies around the country, and up to the end of the year, they were giving free data conversion. So that saved us money in that area. And then also you can see here on the screen share, the cooperative purchasing, depending on the number of counties and cities that sign on, we will get a discount next year on our maintenance, our annual maintenance fees. So this was approved in the CI budget. We have the full amount. This is just the current, the breakdown of the contract that we're asking you to authorize the mayor to sign at this time. So I can answer any questions if anyone has any. This first year cost is $122,225.
Thank you so much for all the information. Do we have any questions for council regarding this? I think this just goes to the complexities of having all of these different cases with different timelines that have to be tracked or else the case is compromised. Ms. Cheryl.
Yeah, thanks. the complexity of it is, that's kind of enlightening. I'm just curious, you said the first year contract, and maybe I missed how many years the contract would be and what the price in the forthcoming years will be.
Oops, sorry. So that's the ultimate buying our licensing, that type of thing for this first year, the setup, the training. There's a lot of initial costs. Once we move on, annual support services on the second page of our, I can put this back up for you. Maybe. Okay, so on page 7 of the contract, and I'm sharing it here, the annual support services, we'll have 21 licenses, and the price per license per year is $9,450. Unlimited e-discovery. We currently do all of our discovery electronic, except for at times pro se defendants won't have access, and we have other means to provide them with their discovery for their case. That's another expense we have each year. The interface annual support. There's $10,000 twice in this contract, one for interfacing with the law enforcement case management system, and as well as the program that the police department uses for their scheduling. We currently have to do a lot of duplicate data entry because of the scheduling of police officers, which is a very critical task for all of us in order to prevent as much overtime as we can for the police department, but still have our officers appear for trial. So this will allow us to roll that through this program and just make it a lot easier for all of us, and we won't be entering data into two different systems. So you see, we do pay $1,000 per or $2,000 per year per interface. The external agency portal, that is for the police department. That's another bonus for them. That will cost $2,000 a year, but it will allow the officers to get their subpoenas through this portal, allow them to communicate with prosecutors and also see the case reports, the videos, all of that right there. And then the hosted services, this is completely cloud-based and hosted by the company Carpel Solutions. So it's $100 per license in that case as well. The other expense that we will have with this program that we didn't have this current year is the hosting. They provide 2 terabytes, I believe it is, of data storage. Let's see if I can find that for you real fast. And then every terabyte after that, we have to pay an additional, I'm sorry, I think it's here, additional storage after included 2 terabytes is $1,000 per year. Currently, we have 11 terabytes of data. So this number within our budget will vary year to year. It depends on how many videos we have as these videos from law enforcement continue to increase. It will just be a varying amount. However, the support amount that we are paying on this is still going to save us, I believe it's $20,000 a year from our current vendor. They were requesting a much higher amount to stay with them. Now, I don't have that right in front of me, so my apologies. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Colleen. Okay, do we have any other questions for council regarding this contract for the city attorney's office? Seeing none, I am looking for a motion. Someone wants to raise their hand and make a motion. That would make me very happy. Ms. Cheryl.
I'm happy to make you happy. I will make that recommended motion.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this motion? Not seeing any hands raised for public comment. And any other comment or questions from council? Seeing none, we will go to a roll call vote.
Anderson,
Yes.
Contos,
Can't hear you, John. You're muted. Say it again, John.
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
S,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Vasika,
Yes.
and West.
Yes.
Got 9 yeses and 3 absent.
Thank you. That will go into the consent agenda. Okay, and our final item on our agenda today is 3.3, community-based organization contracts. And Karen Gasvoda is here to present on that. Are you here, Karen?
I am here. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you. Go ahead, take it away.
I am a grants administrator with Housing and Community Development. And to note, Erin Pahan presented this information to the Committee of the Whole on July 29th, and they are included in the fiscal year 21 budget. And today I'm here to ask you to approve and authorize the mayor to sign the agreements with the following community-based organizations for fiscal year 21. These contracts are investments from the general fund that the city makes annually to support local organizations performing work of value to the community and its city operations. The city partners with these organizations in order to achieve the goals outlined in our strategic plan. The individual contracts are attached to the agenda, and the contracts are with Missoula Economic Partnership for for $100,000, Arts Missoula for $202,350, International Choral Festival for $12,000, Missoula Aging for $239,663, and Partnership Health Center for $35,000. And as you can see, Missoula Aging Services is one of the ones that Lee and Gwen mentioned before on the budget amendment. And since that amendment requires a public hearing and takes 30 days, we would like to move ahead with the contract as is so that they can draw funds in the meantime. And we will bring the contract amendment back following approval of the budget amendment.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, are there any questions from council regarding these contracts that are in front of us today? Seeing up, Ms. Anderson. Ms. Anderson.
Thanks, Karen. I just wanted to double confirm, and I think you said this, that these are things that were when passing the budget in August, accounted for in the budgeting process. And so now this is just simply the executing of those said contracts.
Correct, and authorizing the mayor to sign the contracts.
Thank you.
Thanks. Ms. Harp?
Karen, I know this was part of the budget that was already approved, but do you have some information in terms of what other alternative fund organizations we had considered funding and how we narrowed it down to these particular 5?
These were funded in the past fiscal year, and they continued on this year. Beyond that, perhaps Lee would know. Or I can look into it further to investigate how exactly that worked.
Yeah, I would add that we have historically funded these for quite a few years.
At least back to 2008.
Yeah.
I guess my point is, I understand we have funded these organizations and I fully endorse that. I'm just kind of curious, have other organizations approached us for some additional community funding from local government?
The letters that we received for funding requests were these here. And in addition to Home Resource and Climate Smart, and Chase is working on those right now. And he is finalizing the scope of work, and he will bring those before you within the month. So all of the letters that we received are funded here.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Vasika.
Thanks. I just, I'm a little bit concerned about signing the contract and moving forward with that. I think it was for the Missoula Aging Services before the public hearing. I'm concerned about the legality of that. If we are supposed to have the public hearing first, is it legally allowed to do this?
Yes, this did go before the city attorney, and it just allows them to access those funds now. And then that additional funding will be added in the amended contract.
Okay, thank you.
Lee, did you want to add to that?
Thank you. I just wanted to let folks know that the bulk of the contract is already in the approved budget, and it's a small amount that's in the amendment. So if we were to spend it all, then it would be a bit of a gray area. But I don't believe that's how they make those draws. So we should be just fine.
Yeah, so just so that you're clear, Sandra, where the 239,000 was in the budget, the 16,000 was inadvertently not in the budget. So we're just doing the first 239,000 in this contract and then amend the contract after the budget amendment. Does that?
Yeah, that clears it up. Thank you.
So it's very incremental. Ms. West.
I just had a comment about how these, I guess these organizations have worked in the past. I think about in 2008, no, a couple of years ago, we changed where these fit into our budget, and I bet Jordan or some other folks could speak to that as well. It used to be that all of these organizations, whether it was Home Resource, Aging Services, the City Band, Arts Missoula, MEP, I'm trying to remember what they all were, kind of were their own category, and it always turned into a really contentious fight where these were the things I don't know, it was just messy the way it was done before. And so now they live in a different spot of the budget. But at the time, we did see organizations come forward just asking for funding in general. And I think that was part of the reasons that these relationships were formalized and integrated in our overall city budget. If I'm remembering it correctly, and just to give some context of why we have the process that we have now with these specific organizations.
Thanks, Heidi. I was just trying to reach back into my memory also. I think it was after summer of 2016 when we decided that budget. We specifically asked that these be vetted by staff instead of just coming cold to city council, so that there is a staff process for it. Ms. Harp.
I think that's a definitely an improvement in the right direction for a best practice. It just occurs to me that there are other organizations that have approached our body for funding, such as the Senior Center. And I don't know what to tell them in terms of where to go through our process to apply for funds. And so if there's something that all of these organizations have participated in, I think others who could use the funding as well could know where to participate at the right level, who to contact going forward. I think that would improve their chances at obtaining some additional well-needed funding as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the Senior Center is its own situation there. I've been involved in a lot of talks regarding potential city funding with the Senior Center, and that's an ongoing scenario that Missoula Aging Services is actually heading up, but it's not a simple ask. There's a lot of contingencies there. Okay. I thought I saw another hand, but I'm not seeing one now. I am looking for a motion for these community-based organization contracts. Mr. Hess.
Thanks. I'll make the recommended motion and agree with everyone's remarks that this is much more orderly and predictable and logical and a better process than what we used to do. Which used to be kind of a food fight, I think would be the best way to describe it.
Thank you for that, Jordan. I'm looking for public comment on these contracts, this motion. I am not seeing any raised hands for public comment on the motion. So back to council. Any other comments or questions before taking a vote? Seeing none, we will do a roll call vote.
Anderson.
Yes.
Santos.
Yes.
Harp.
Yes.
Hess.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Ramos.
Yes.
Gerald.
Yes.
Vasika.
Yes.
West.
Yes.
We have 9 yeses and 3 absent.
Thank you. That will go onto the consent agenda, and seeing no other business, we will stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.